Hello everybody, my name is David, also known as Rev, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. In the last episode, we decided to go on a tour of Sharlayan while we were waiting for everybody to get reacquainted with their surroundings. This time, we have a choice to make. We can either help Cryle, Graha, Alize, and Y'shtola in Sharlayan first to better understand the situation about what the fourm is hiding. Or we can go with Asinian, Thancred, and Urianger to Danlan? I can't remember the name of the city right now, but we're going to investigate the tower there. Now, personally, I would be fine with going with either one of these routes, but I think the one that interests me the most in the grand scheme of things is investigating the forum here. So I'm going to go ahead and talk to Cryle, and then we can decide what to do from there. So, let's go on ahead. In the books. Now suddenly change has come over Sharlayan, but together we will divine the underlying cause for the forum's callousness. As I mentioned before, however, questioning the counselors directly is a fruitless endeavor. They seem to have already come to a consensus as to what and how little they are willing to divulge. Which is why I'm scouring the Sharlayan's archives of historical records for any hint of a connection to the final days. Suffice to say that progress has been slow. There are only so many dusty pages one can skim in a day. But now that I have this band of willing reinforcements, the search should proceed all the swifter. Let us reconvene outside the Numenon, shall we? Exit the annex to the right and you'll find an archives on the western edge of the woods. See, my thing is that if anything that, has any sort of connection to the final days... Oh, I see. I'll come and help them later. Okay. I thought they would, it would make sense if they, left. But I guess without me, they're probably just going to be chilling. But I think Urianger would have a nice, extensive knowledge of books and everything. All right. So we need to go on ahead and head over to basically the Western Library. But as I was saying, the forum should already have more or less an idea of, their connection to the final days. And I would not keep those types of books out for people to read, especially with how they're kind of treated, I guess, at the moment. So I guess the idea of going here seems kind of fruitless to me, but it's a start. And I think that's what matters the most in this case. My directions were easy to follow, I hope. In any case, you stand now before the doors of the Numenon, Sharlayan's grandest collection of books and tomes. This building is actually only an entrance, and one of many at that. For the archives of the Numenon extend deep beneath the surface like the roots of a tree. The vast halls of the Great Cabal Library pale in comparison to the Numenon's endless maze of subterranean chambers. Any citizen of Sharlayan is free to enter for use its shelves. Well, most of its shelves. Only Archons are afforded access to certain restricted vaults. I've dispatched Y'shtola and Raha to investigate those. Meanwhile, Alize and Alphina will help me continue my search through the stacks I've opened to the general public. Your status presents more of a problem. As a non-citizen, you're only permitted to browse the first floor here at the entrance. Even so, there should be a number of books that touch upon Sharlayan history or foreign policy. Your task will be to find and study the relevant publication. I promise you, a working knowledge of those subjects will make it far easier to spot the sort of clues we're looking for. Let's be about, shall we? I've already told the others to meet us at the stone benches over there once they found some promising tomes. Happy reading! So yeah, I know that this is going to be a little bit less action oriented, but it's no big deal. All right, so we got a couple of books that we need to go on ahead and try to take a look at. So this one's the story of Sharlayan. Long, long ago, on an island in the Northern Sea, there lived a Rogadin man by the name of Yunkrep. Yunkrep was a student of astrology, and he divined that a flood of terrifying proportions would soon sweep over the lands of Eorza. So it was that he built a gigantic ship, assembled a crew, and set sail for that imperiled realm. The flood arrived as foretold, and to their horror, the strangely churning waters drove the people towards the ocean. It was there, however, that Yunkrep's crew hauled them aboard his ark, but the danger had not passed. A towering wave approached, threatening to smash the vessel to pieces. With only moments to spare, Yunkrep wove a spell of teleportation and shifted the entire ship safely atop Albalthia's spine. Refugees from the surrounding regions huddled there alongside them. It was not long before disputes over the dwindling supply of food led to violence and bloodshed. Saddened by the sight, Njunkref gathered to him his crew and his grateful passengers and abandoned the ark to those reddened peaks. They journeyed to the coast where they built a new ship, intent on returning to the northern seas. They landed on the beach of an island and settled upon that very spot. That settlement prospered and grew, and in time became the city of Sharlayan we live in to this day. In the years which followed the founding of Sharlayan, civic policy and other matters of import were decided at the Ecclesia, a public forum at which every citizen was eligible to speak. As the city's population grew, however, this format became increasingly impractical. A large number of participants gave rise to the ever longer debates, resulting in significant delays of vital resolutions. Various measures were introduced in an attempt to curtail protracted discussions, but in the year 201 of the 6th Astral Era, it was ultimately decreed that Sharlayan would transition to a new form of governance. The nation would now be led by a body of 99 members, citizens chosen from amongst their peers by means of a nationwide vote. Thus, the forum as we know today was conceived and created. During the chaos of the Sixth Umbral Calamity, Archon Njunkref, founder of Sharlayan, bore witness to the madness and savagery of men brought to the brink of despair. Upon raising a settlement on the island in the northern empty, he instructed his people thus: renounce the ways of war and pursue enlightenment through knowledge and reason. Sharlayans took to heart the words of their savior, and thenceforth served as stewards of wisdom. Upon foundation of accumulated learning, they built a homeland unlike any other, a nation born from the strength of minds rather than the strength of arms. With knowledge and economics came shrewd trading. With knowledge of agriculture came bountiful crops. Engineering brought wells and sewers, ending squabbles under water. Wealth of expertise could be bartered for wealth and coin, and the more their wisdom spread throughout the world, the more mankind as a whole would thrive. And so it was that no matter the trials and tribulation of the age, the citizens of Sharlayan would live by their founder's teachings. For the sake of a better tomorrow, for the sake of a brighter star, they would eschew the tools of war and with knowledge deliver the world. I'm glad that I hit the right ones. That was actually, I'm glad that, see, I know what I'm doing. I know how to come to conclusions. So let's go on ahead and wait at the spot like everybody else. Look at all these people. Here I am, waiting. So, Alize and Graha. Sorry, were you waiting long? I wanted to make sure I borrowed at least a few promising volumes. Alphino and Crow should also be along shortly. I was delayed in a similar fashion. As far as I could see, no titles in the Archon stack mentioned the file days specifically, so I had no choice but to start with the tangentially relevant tones, if they are even that. At present, the plan is to skim through as quickly as we dare, and share our discoveries as we make them. It would have been nice to invite everyone to the estate, plenty of comfortable places to read, and a ready supply of hot tea. Oh, I was always quite fond of reading outside. But it's not about the little pleasures, is it? You miss your home. It's been difficult. After our arrival, we managed to speak with one of the family servants and ask how things were. It seems our dear father has instructed the staff that even if Alphino and I were to return to Sharlayan, we would not be allowed across the threshold. A harsh measure indeed. I hope that our efforts to understand his position and that of the forum will perhaps lead to a reconciliation. We'll mend this rift one day. I'm certain of it. And what of you, Graha? Have you been to visit your family, or do they not live here in the city? Ah, well, my situation is also somewhat complicated. I was raised in Sharlayan, yes, but I was born rather further away. In the southern reaches of Ilzabard, in fact. For generations, my people dwelt in the Corvos, the coastal region opposite to the island of Thavnir. The Allegiance founded a city in that fertile land, and by ship brought in the subjugated tribes of Mquote to serve as laborers. Of course, the massive earthquakes of the Fourth Umbral Calamity brought an end to the Empire's reign, and when the Fifth Calamity froze the seas solid, many of the tribes still living in Corvos braved the journey back to Eorza. My ancestors, however, chose to remain, that they might prevent the remnants of Elysian technology from being misused. Isn't Corvus under Garlean rule? For the past 50 years, yes. Some semblance of the local culture remains, as is the case for most imperial provinces, but Garlemald remained the legion locus amenosis. When I was a boy, a nearby town under the jurisdiction of an illustrious imperial family, the House of Nobles of House Darnus. House Darnus demonstrated a singular interest in the Elysian civilization, and so my tribe was forced to consider a plan of action. For some times already, voices have favored in abandoning our ancient customs after all. The Elysian Eye no longer passed to our eldest children as reliably as it once had. Fear of discovery eventually tipped the scales, and the decision was made to bury our ties to the knowledge and tradition of the Elag. As the last child born with the Elysian Eye, I was given over to the custody of his friends and the students of Baldician, who registered me as a Sharlayan citizen. I never even considered. Forgive me, it was an unkind question. Even Thancred was taken in by Archon... I can't even say his name, was he not? Stories of adopted wives and rescued orphans are more common among Sharlayans than anyone else. Yet regardless of our origins, we were all provided with an equal opportunity to learn, and with sufficient we outsiders can even earn the title of Archon. This is exactly why I have such a love for this country, and why I wish it to remain a nation of which its citizens could be proud. Hear, hear. Another good reason to get to the bottom of the fourm's stubbornness, aside from the trifling matter of our impending doom. Excuse us while we try to make some headway in these two books, Vendor. More company should be arriving any moment now. Are we waiting part 2? Yes, waiting part 2. We've returned with our selections. Although I must say, the picklings were quite slim indeed. Mistress Kryle has already flickered through every history book devoted to disasters, and more than a few of which barely made mention of them. As such, we'll be looking to research papers on umbral calamities, as well as articles written by prominent fourm members. Perhaps their knowledge of the final days comes from an unexpected source. Speaking of which, might I ask you a few questions related to the final days? I'm the only one here who didn't witness the events of Amarat firsthand, and fear I might be overlooking critical details. I got you. My thanks. Now where to begin? First things first, what kind of phenomena did the ancients encounter as the final days drew nigh? Complete destabilization of critical creation magics. Yes, the unfolding catastrophe wrought havoc on all manner of life. The chaos extended to the ancients themselves, causing their powers of creation to spiral out of control. Fear and despair manifested in terrible, tangible fashion. Meteors raining from the sky, fire erupting from the ground, indescribable abominations prowling the streets. The more or less aligns with my understanding. If only the arts of creation had survived until present day, we might have had something substantial to analyze. To the best of our knowledge, however, those techniques were not preserved or passed on. The scholars surmise that the closest known magic is that of the summoning rituals promulgated by the Asians. Was there aught else of note that which heralded the approach of the final days? The entire skull was engulfed by disaster all at once. I could have done the Alpha No one, but it's serious. I think you may be misremembering. As I recall, it was more of a gradual spread. The Almaritians of a keening sound that rose from land itself just before a region was visited by a catastrophe. We never did hear the sound ourselves, of course. Trust that we were in the midst of the madness. So the ground was crying out, you say. To be considered the harbinger of doom, it must have been quite distinctive, and probably quite loud. I'll have to speak with one of Numimon's mammoths, and ask after any which make mention of such a sound. Last but not least, would you describe how the ancients sought to quell this unprecedented calamity? What definitive action did they take? They summoned Zodiark. Yes, with Olympus serving as his heart. So many gave themselves in sacrifice to bring him into being. We do not know exactly how Zodiac brought salvation to the star, only that by his godlike wills were the laws of nature set aright. Then, once the balance was readdressed, the ancients offered up a further sacrifice to heal the ravages of the final days. Lives sprouted anew, and it was the fledgling souls they intended to render onto Zarya, a trade that would have allowed them to resurrect the shades of the loved ones absorbed by the primal. Or might have, had Venat and her followers not manifested their opposition in the form of Hydaelyn. Thank you, both of you, for the detailed review. I feel much more confident now in my understanding of events. With all that freshly in mind, it does make me wonder what the Telophori truly mean when they speak of bringing back the final days. We've seen what they're doing with those towers of theirs. It's forcing people to summon primals, a kind of catalyst. Are they attempting to mirror the conditions caused by unstable creation magics? Or are they simply using the final days as a figure of speech? A convenient metaphor for the scale of destruction they plan to unleash. But this is all just pointless conjecture at this stage. Let us return to our attention to the forms, shall we? We shall keep an eye out for your Stola, but this time we began studying these research papers. So yeah, this is a lot of like exposition lore, which I actually really do like. All right, Stola is going to be our last person who we're going to be trying to discuss, these different ideals with. Hopefully we can find some sort of conclusion, because this is a lot of information to go through. I'm the last one, am I? Well, my extended search of Archon stacks produced 1 or 2 possibly useful books, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. If you recall, Urianger learned of the sources of reflection from the Garana oracles. For its potential, it caused panic and confusion. That tome was deemed apocrypha and sealed away in the Great Kubal Library. It's even less likely that the knowledge of Unsundered World, not to mention the horror of the final days, would be left sitting on a shelf for any curious scholar to find. It stands to reason then that my colleagues, be they archons or counselors, should perforce be largely ignorant of the subject. Yet when you've confronted Master... I can't say his name, with the knowledge of the Telophori and the machinations, he scoffed at the suggestion that they posed a threat. He seemed adamant that the forum would know if the final days were truly upon us, which only supports the conclusion that whoever was privileged wisdom is guiding the forum's favor is being kept secret from the rest of the nation. Not to mention that I mean to excuse myself from reading to you. Whether they contain mention of the final days or no, these books could yet hold something of value. You weren't thinking of leading, were you? There's plenty of work for everyone. Oh my goodness. These little jokes here and there are always really nice. But we are lots of reading. You labor for what feels like an eternity as Yisola's research assistants. Oh dear, you look exhausted. But what about your studies? Were you able to find any books on the subjects I mentioned? Yeah. Then the day's well spent. Should you wish to read them again, a mammoth at the reference desk will point you in the right direction. For the moment though, I suggest you take a well-deserved rest. You might be occupied with our research for quite some time. Ready for a tea break, Bender? I know I am. Honestly, my neck and shoulders are going to calcify if I don't stretch my legs and walk around for a bit. You'll last stand down in the harbor, don't you? Come meet me near the outside tables. Treat you to their coffee. It's quite good. The amount of reading I've had to do, and I even tried to prepare ahead of time by drinking some hot tea. I did some of my roulettes already. But nope, we are dealing with all this. As busy as ever, I see. How very Sharlayan that no other gourmet cafe has sprung up to compete for customers. Actually, this crowd gives me an idea. Before we place an order, why don't we ask a few questions to gauge the mood of the city? I'm interested to hear what the average citizen has to say about the Telophori. Might even learn something new. Worth a try, don't you think? Alright, so we've now got Alize with us to go and kind of explore the different civilians around the city. Just take a quick peek. All right, no extra dialogue. Oh, what is it? Can a man not enjoy a moment of private respite? If you're looking to share a table, then I respectfully request that you look elsewhere. You misunderstand, sir. We were simply wondering if you knew of the Telophori. These enemies of peace have promised to end in all that behold dear and... Wait, you're the House Levillaire girl, aren't you? And this man with you is obviously a foreigner. Huh. I heard you were disowned for helping outsiders indulge their barbaric whims. Here you are giving truth to the rumor. I'll thank you to leave me be. I've not to say the likes of you. Well, I must apologize. 'Twas foolish of me to expect an ounce of civility from one's own lightened. Come, Vendor. Wow, these guys are so rude, to just say the least. Yes, I don't believe I've had the pleasure. Very excuse the interruption. We were hoping you might share your thoughts of the Tlofari and their unconsignable plans. My goodness, if it isn't young Miss Levillaire. My apologies, but I work in the office of the forum. If word reached Master Fortunate that I was helping you, I see. We're sorry to have bothered you. Imagine if I knew how to read the English language, I would be the most powerful. Welcome, sir. What can I offer for you today? Wait, is that Mistress Alice I see here? My word, how long has it been? Far too long. Meet Dickon, the owner of The Last Stand. I used to frequent this cafe on occasion, in between lessons at the studium. That seems like an age ago. I remember hearing that you and Master Alphino had set sail for Eorza, then you never came back. Lately, there's been gossip about your father disowning the pair of you. Everything all right at home? It's complicated. I hadn't expected complete strangers to be so familiar with our situation quite so quickly. Everyone has an opinion, it seems. Well, it is House Levillaire. No matter how discreet Master Fortunate may have been, news of your family's doings never stays secret for long. Things have being what they are. What brings you back to the city now all the times? We have questions, and only Sharlayans have the answers. Tell me, Master Dick, have you heard anything about an apocalypse called the Final Days? What, like the end of the world? Nothing like that, I'm afraid. And that's what you're here to find? Information on this apocalypse? Yes, whatever we can learn. Unfortunately, your patrons appear to be unwilling to speak with me. I wish there was more I can do to help. But maybe there is. You're a visitor to Sharlayan, aren't you? Then few will know your face. We should be able to pass you off as a server with none the wiser. We've just finished preparing a few orders. Strike up some friendly conversation while you're setting down the food. You might just get the answers you're looking for. Not a bad idea. I hate to ask, but what do you think? Oh wait, I'm gonna be a server. I'm gonna look cute as hell. That's the spirit. Pay attention now, and I'll explain where each of these dishes need to go. The tea is set for the chatty group by the water's edge. The omelet's for one of our regulars, a Highlander by the name of Gisla. She's sitting on the outside table with a friend of hers. Oh, there's a third one, but I remember 2 out of the 3, so that's fine. So who are we going to first? All right. So you guys, I believe, have the tea set. Oh, my lovely tea set. Thank you. The lawful who? I'm sorry, and I've never heard of them or their final days. My friends and I are somewhat uninformed when it comes to current events. And if you want to hear about the ritual arcane practices of the 6th astral era, common or historic, then I'd be happy to talk your ear off. So then Gisla wanted the omelet. Ah, finally, 2468. Let's dig in, no time to waste. What? The Tlofari? Ah, yes, I remember seeing the name in the latest gazette. That and some grand claim about the end of days? Same old senseless warmongering. When will these fools grow tired of spilling each other's blood? Best I stay out of it, I say. The forum made the right choice, and I fully support our decision to remain neutral. That's a new one. Let's hit the new one. Or you don't need to butter me up, you know. I've already ordered one of the most expensive things on the menu. Okay. Well, I guess I'll give him his food. At last, the oven-baked lobster is mine. You have no idea how long I've scrimped and saved and suffered to afford this heavenly dish. Final days, this is the first I've heard of it. Although, that would explain why my friend rushed off his feet. Must be a busy time to be a gleaner. Huh? You don't know what a gleaner is? They're collectors of the sort. Travel the world procuring things we haven't got here in Sharlayan. Priceless books, unusual life specimen, and so forth. So named for the folks who trail after the reapers in the field, picking up every grain which was missed. Aye, by all accounts, gleaning is the most meticulous and demanding profession. If these Salafari make good on their audacious threats, then many uncatalogued rarities could be lost forever. Why else would gleaners be buzzing about in such a frenzy? Watch the harbor and you'll see what I mean. They're carting good loads in from docks all day. It's never been this hectic before. Not like this. We actually got a good amount of information from that last guy there. Any trouble with the customers? Are you able to get anyone talking? We did get one. Interesting. They seem unaware of the final days, aside from whatever vague news the gazettes are printing. Even Dickon had nothing to offer. And he's the best source of gossip in the city. Huh. If the fourm does have secret knowledge, then they've done an impressive job of ensuring no one whispers in the wrong ear. In any case, thank you for playing the part so well. Here's that cup of coffee I promised. I can go for some coffee. Now let's enjoy our drink somewhere else, shall we? Maybe behind the peristyle, away from the gossips and their wagging tongues. Alright, let's go ahead and meet up with Alice over yonder. I'm actually really enjoying myself so far. Yes, this should do nicely. Out of the wind and out of sight. I was so used to the Shadowbringers one version of this. Like, of Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
When our father disowned us, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It wasn't until much later that his words began to sink in, that I began to feel the weight of what it meant. Do you remember when the decision was made to come to Sharlayan? Grahas said that the fourm was determined to keep us in the dark, and that Father's venomous performance was part of that strategy, to keep us at arm's length. Perhaps it was. Father argued with Grandfather on many occasions, but never with such dismissive contempt. And when he demanded what justifies the sacrifices we make in war, I honestly didn't know what to say. Neither did Alpha know, I know, but never for one moment did I believe we had made the wrong choice. So all I could do was fume silently. It was only afterwards that I realized how childish I had been, how being stubborn and self-righteous must run in the family.
It does. It does.
If I could have just mustered a civil response, then things might have turned out differently.
Oh, these are the gleaners. They're sailing in the goods.
They must be ferrying goods to Labyrinthos.
Is it investigating time?
A vast complex beneath the island. Sharlayan is famous for archiving knowledge from around the world. Well, that knowledge is not preserved exclusively in dusty tomes and desiccated samples. Our living library, comprised of all manner of flora and fauna, is housed and studied within that underground facility. Still, that did seem to be an unusually large shipment. When I lived here, it was rare to even see such cargo transported by boat. Wait, didn't you hear something in the last stand about the gleaners coming and going more than usual?
Yeah.
Well, I think they're the ones we saw manning those boats. And gleaners answer to the forum. If the appearance of the Telophoroi prompted this sudden burst of activity, then Labyrinthos may hold a clue as to what the forum is planning.
I see. Then we have to get into Labyrinthos, right? I think we discovered our next plan of action. And so, we now have our new objective, and I think this is actually good of time as any to go on ahead and end this episode. So, next time on Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, what we're going to be going on ahead and doing is working towards seeing what's behind in Labyrinthos. So thank you guys all so very much for watching, and I will see you guys all in the next one. I have no idea if I closed last episode, but we'll see.